At the very base of your brain, cradled in a small hollow of bone, sits a gland no larger than a pea. For decades, it was called the master gland of the body. But this is profoundly misleading. It suggests a single, autonomous ruler, a central king issuing decrees. The reality is a story of delegation, of intricate feedback, and of two completely different structures that happen to share the same tiny, bony apartment. This single entity is, in fact, not single at all. To understand this duality, you have to go back to when you were an embryo. The posterior, or back part of the pituitary, is literally brain tissue. It grew downwards from the developing hypothalamus, an extension of the central nervous system itself. The anterior, or front part, embarked on a much stranger journey. It started as a small outpocketing of tissue from the roof of your developing mouth, known as Rothke's pouch. This bit of future mouth tissue migrated upwards, detaching completely and fusing with the downward growing brain tissue. You have a piece of your mouth running your hormones. This anterior lobe, the one from the mouth, doesn't just send one signal. It initiates hormonal cascades, like a series of falling dominoes, where each domino is larger than the last. Consider the stress response. Your hypothalamus, the brain region just above the pituitary, releases a tiny amount of a hormone called CRH. This travels a minuscule distance through a private blood portal system to the anterior pituitary, which responds by releasing a larger amount of a second hormone, ACTH. ACTH then travels through your entire bloodstream until it reaches the adrenal glands on top of your kidneys, triggering them to release a flood of cortisol. This isn't a one-way street. The system is designed to turn itself off. That final hormone, cortisol, doesn't just affect your body. It travels back to its source. When cortisol levels in the blood rise, the cortisol molecules act as a signal to both the hypothalamus and the pituitary. They effectively say, "Okay, that's enough for now," inhibiting the release of CRH and ACTH. This is a negative feedback loop, a beautiful piece of biological engineering that ensures a stress response eventually subsides. It's less of a command and more of a conversation. So if the pituitary is just a middle manager, who is the CEO? The true integrator is the hypothalamus. It's the part of the brain that reads the state of the world, both internal and external. It has sensors that directly measure the temperature and salt concentration of your blood. It receives direct input from your optic nerves, telling it about the light-dark cycle of the day, which governs your circadian rhythms. It's also deeply connected to the limbic system, the brain's emotional centers. Fear, excitement, and anxiety are all translated into hormonal signals here. And what about that other half, the posterior pituitary, that is actually brain tissue? It doesn't produce any hormones at all. It's more like a storage depot or a neurosecretory terminal. Two crucial hormones, vasopressin and oxytocin, are produced up in the cell bodies of neurons within the hypothalamus. These hormones are then transported down the long, thin axons of those neurons, which extend all the way into the posterior pituitary. There, they wait for a nerve signal from the hypothalamus to trigger their release directly into the bloodstream. The posterior pituitary doesn't make decisions. It's a dedicated port for the brain's own hormones. The hormones released here reveal how deeply this system is tied to our experience of the world. Vasopressin helps regulate water balance and blood pressure, a fundamental survival mechanism. But oxytocin is a far more subtle actor. Often called the love hormone, it is critical for social bonding, like that between a mother and child after birth. It's also involved in generating feelings of trust and reducing social anxiety. A simple act like making eye contact with someone can trigger oxytocin release from your posterior pituitary, subtly changing your brain chemistry to facilitate a social connection. Your glands are shaping your society. Ultimately, this tiny structure is not a master. It is a nexus point, a critical translator. It's where the electrical language of the brain, of thought, of fear, of the ticking circadian clock, is converted into the chemical language of the body. The signals it relays orchestrate growth spurts in your sleep, manage your reaction to a sudden surprise, and even nudge you toward trusting a stranger. It's the profoundly complex and beautifully integrated bridge between your mind and your matter. Monotony has grown fast. Nearly 2,700 people have watched in the last few weeks, yet less than 0.03% are subscribed. It would mean a lot if you joined by hitting subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.